This happened in my school. One time a kid threw tater tots at another kid. Another time a kid brought poison ivy in a plastic bag and rubbed it on another kid's face. And like a lot of just tempers raising.
That's
like
murder.
a criminal.
Yeah, right. That's
brutal.
like he needs to go to jail for that.
Yeah, he got in real trouble for that.
Good planning.
Welcome to Cloudtown Tuesday, the day where I share a page from my graphic novel Cloudtown and tell you about the process of making it. It's like a editor's commentary on a DVD. Here it is. Let's go. Let's do it. So we're still kind of in this section where like the underdrawing is from that zine version I did before I sold the book. We were talking before how like I was just making tons of zines that were kind of one-shots and selling them or showing them to people. I only printed like 60 copies of the zine. It was like all risograph printed.
Nice.
Which is kind of why it ended up being the two-color situation.
How many pages was the zine?
Oh, okay.
It was 60 pages. It was a 60-page zine. Because I knew I wanted to try to sell it, and I wanted to get to the moment where the main characters get in the robot. Because I had been pitching books with my agent to publishers for a couple of years. And I kept on getting feedback that was like, this seems good, but we don't really see where it's going. Like, they didn't see a full story.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have the beats that they could, they'd seen giant robot stories. I was talking about this the other day with my parents. I was listening to a podcast about screenwriters. They were talking about selling movies can teach you some bad habits. And I think, for me, there is a bad habit that helps you sell a little bit your first thing, where you want it to be predictable enough or seem predictable enough
that it's sellable.
Yeah, that the editor trusts, or like the people trust that they can imagine where it would go or how it would wrap up.
Yeah, so they could publish it.
Yeah, all my other stuff is way less normal, if that makes sense.
A friend of mine.
It's more niche.
Yeah.
Or like you can't know because it doesn't have the platform to even find out. The audience.
A friend of mine once said, and I don't know if I agree with this, that you write the proposal so it is predictable, but the actual story is what you want.
Yeah.
So once you get it sold, then you throw in the changes. I don't know if that works or not. I've never worked with an editor.
It really, it depends.
So I don't know if they'd be like, what is this? This isn't what we agreed to.
If you make it like simple, you can add stuff to it.
There's a lot of good argument about storytelling where they say, like, the story can be predictable, but it still needs... Let's try to figure out how to put this. Like, you set an expectation for your audience, and you subvert it, but then ultimately deliver what you promised, but better than they imagined. Like, that's the classic, like, mainstream hit idea of making a narrative. But as far as you were asking about, like, or you were talking about your friend... It's really publisher by publisher. Like, now that I'm talking, like, in rooms, or I'm getting to talk to more people that have one or two books with different comic publishers, some comic publishers are like, do whatever you want. Yeah, I trust you. Some are, like, very nitty-gritty. It depends on the person at the publisher, and it depends on the publisher.
Did you only hit up one publisher for Cloudtown, or were you contacting multiple people?
We were hitting up tons of publishers. There was a little interest for someone that didn't ultimately take it, but it just takes one yes.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people talk about breaking into comics, and that's like a long conversation. You have to continue to break into comics after you break into comics.
Yeah. You have to keep going with a certain momentum to like keep people up on your work and stuff like that.
But getting that one yes is the hardest start.
Yeah.
I think with like the young adult market too, like just getting a yes on one book doesn't necessarily mean that your next book is going to get a yes. So
for sure. And
I think, like, with, if you're publishing a series, I think, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, you have a commitment to a certain level. And different publishers are different. Earlier in the graphic novel world, there were a lot more 2-3 book deals, but because graphic novels take so long to make...
It's just one?
It's usually one at a time. Like, I pitched this as 3 books.
Yeah.
And they were like, can you make it one? I was like, okay. But I want to keep telling the story.
Yeah, because it takes years just to make one of them.
Yeah, it can. My hope is to get faster. And I think after this I'll show you my new story that I'm doing, and it's taking me 4 hours a page instead of 16 hours a page, and it's full color, but it's like a very different style, I think.
Nice.
So that's been nice because I can do a full page and then go to work.
Yeah.
So it's a page a day, and then I also can make a living on top of that.
When you made Cloudtown a zine, were you originally thinking a 3-book project from the start, or like a full story, or was it just like playing around?
I think that this is a mistake I and a lot of early graphic novelists make, where I just wanted to. You want everything to be the thing you love that's a million episodes.
Yeah.
But, like, really, you gotta hold on to the thing in front of you. Like, I listened since then to a lot of podcasts about TV writer rooms, and you just need episode 1 to be so good they want to get to episode 2. You can't worry about episode 42 yet.
You gotta make a really good pilot.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I did. I had the world. I was like, it's such a huge, jumbled, exciting thing.
Yep.
And part of that is, like, these things take a long time. They take more time when you're starting out. And so you're like, this could take years. I'm never going to make another thing. I need every idea in there.
Yeah.
And there is something awesome about people's first works because of that. Sometimes it has every freaking idea all in one book. And you're like, this person was just going, like, putting it all on the table. But also, there's a drawback to that. There's, like, there's a clumsiness that happens when you pack as many ideas as possible into one
Yeah,
thing.
it could be a little distracting to the reader instead of just being a fundamental idea.
I don't know if you're noticing how many bazillion times I'm redrawing everything in here when it probably was...
It's really satisfying. I like watching the line work for this, actually.
I noticed you had a different panel for up here.
Yeah. I wanted
Early
to
on.
give Penn a little bit more reaction
Okay.
time and to have her more specifically kind of humiliate Naomi. I also had a moment where my editor was like not sure that she trusted Naomi would work that way, would like not retaliate immediately.
As a character?
As a character, which I understood. I can talk about what I would, the way I thought about it, because like stuff like this happened in my cafeteria, and I was talking to my sister. Like this almost exactly happened while my sister was at school in our school.
Yeah.
So I made sure I had the teacher show up right there, just to make sure it's like if you have any doubts why she's not just like throwing something back at Penn, there's a teacher right there,
Yeah.
or tattletelling. But in my opinion, if you're someone that's like, she's kind of like a passive, she's a bully, but she doesn't do direct conflict, Naomi. So if you're someone who wants to be dominant in your little social circle, you can't show that you're mad. She's kind of too intimidated to have a direct confrontation with her. Because now once someone does the first charge, like if someone pours milk on your tray in school, the moment that happens, everyone's attention is there. There was a middle school girl that when I was reading this
Really?
to their class, she was just like, and it was awesome because they were at lunch, and I was zooming to the class at lunch, and she was just, it really got her. I was like, okay, it's relatable. I'm doing something right here.
Yeah. She's experienced that firsthand.
Absolutely. But like once first shots, so this happened in my school. One time a kid threw tater tots at another kid, another time a kid brought poison ivy in a plastic bag and rubbed it on another kid's face.
Oh.
He got in real trouble for that. And
Whoa.
but like a lot of just tempers
That's
raising.
that's
like
murder.
a criminal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's like serial killer now.
Premeditated.
Yeah. But like once the first thing happens, you have the attention of the whole school on you, so your next move is a lot higher stakes.
Oh.
And if you fight back, the teachers are going to see you. And if you tattletale, everyone knows that you tattletale. Everyone sees you like, oh, you couldn't handle it
Snitches
yourself.
get stitches.
Yeah, well, like it's certainly frowned upon. It doesn't make you seem like the boss of the school if you
No.
tell the teachers. At least that was my experience. So, yeah, Naomi believes in trying to be the most powerful, but like via non-direct conflict.
She don't want to get in trouble from
She
the
doesn't wanna
teachers.
get in
That's how
trouble.
kids are. Yeah, but in within the children, she's like the top one.
Yeah, and she wants to stay that way. I also had situations where, like, the whole Naomi always going after Olive instead of Penn. Like, I've had situations in my life where people know that I wouldn't care if they were mad at me, so they'd be like they'd be mean to someone in my circle.
Yeah,
because they knew they could get to that person.
But not to you.
Yeah, and then, like, some people
That's
certainly
weird.
get to me, but it's just, in that case, it was just like, I didn't know them that well. If they were mad at me, I'm like, I'm sorry you're mad, like, okay. But, like, my roommate was their friend, and then they cut off my roommate, and my roommate had nothing to do with it. So I was like, maybe that's kind of where the idea of this happened, like, using her friend as a way to try to get to
To
Penn.
the other girl.
I mean, also, that's, like, a classic film trope of, like, the 80s action hero genre. Like, you can't... This man is unstoppable, but he has one weakness, his daughter, you know, or whatever. And, like... And so, that was supposed to...
Commando.
Like,
Yeah.
Penn's just so cool that you need someone outside of her
To pick on.
Pick on. But then, you know, spoiler alert, read the book. But then eventually, you know, Olive is going to be able to hold that space on her own. Just... I thought it was fun.
Also cool.
Yeah, I think you handled like childhood bullying really well in the book.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like a really good subtle realism portrayed in the comic that I appreciate. Because it's not, because there's a lot of bully scenes in media where it's so intense, and I'm like, the kid wouldn't do that. But now you're telling me about, like, how this kid rubbed, like, poison oak on Sloa's face, and now I'm like, oh, maybe.
You know, we had, you know, I had a chunk, a scene edited out that was, like, the over-the-top thing that you see in media, but it also had totally happened in my school. Just because it really happened doesn't mean it's believable to the readers, you know?
Yeah.
It also has to fit the nature of the story,
Yeah.
too. So, you don't want to have something, like, really harsh. That's, like, would be inappropriate for a kid's story.
So I got, would you rather next see a time-lapse of one of my most recent? I think I could do better just being like, if you haven't read... I mean, honestly, if we're here, we're only 12 pages into this book, and it's been weeks and weeks and weeks, right? If you haven't read Cloud Town yet, I recommend reading it, because there will be spoilers.